Who here was born in America? I know I was, but also I come from a background of the Mexican heritage. And in that heritage, it comes with a lot of traditions and point of views. And today I'm going to be talking about how I feel like I really don't feel a part of my culture, my people, and the pros and cons. So give you a little bit of background. My parents had me very young. They I mostly spent most of my time at my grandparents' house, my tia's houses, and I was in a household where English was the main language. But when I went to my grandparents' house, I spoke mostly Spanish, and they did too. I remember when I was young, my grandpa gave me a AAA reading book, and he made me read it. It was all in Spanish, and my Spanish was pretty good. But over time, as we grew and got older, we spent more time in my tia's house where it was just a lot less talking Spanish and more of just English and just English like history and background and more like that because they were raised around here and they were born and raised in Pittsburgh, California. And going growing up, I lost the sense of speaking Spanish. I understand it completely. I could speak it here and there a little bit without, but I just get my hands turn sweaty, my face turns red, and I can't like I just can't speak it. I fumble. So when I went to a party couple months ago with my family, and it was more of a Mexican parents ranch party. Got a lot of family I got seen in a long time from Mexico and other people like that. I I couldn't speak. I could understand. I couldn't really be engaged in the conversation. And to be honest, my tias from out there, I don't really talk to them, but they look at me and they look at me as a white guy, as a whitewash like Mexican from California. And they see me as a more of American than Mexican. But I'm going to a store out here in Cali and say I'm in Northern California, I'm being seen as a Mexican. And the struggle of that, it feels like I'm stuck right in the middle. I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie by Selena where she talks about wanting to wanting to sing Spanish music, but has no idea how to talk it or speak it. And her father says a quote where kind of stuck to me and kind of represents what I feel and how it really is. He says, Mexican Americans is the hardest race to be in America. Why? Because when we go to Mexico, we don't be seen as Mexicans. But when we were here in USA, we don't be seen as American. So we're stuck right in the middle and it's just a struggle. But I feel like I'm taking this and as an advantage where I can understand my culture and my people clearly, and I can understand a different culture and a different tradition clearly. So it feels like I'm just using it as a way to love myself and appreciate myself. And it doesn't matter what people think of how I can't speak Spanish or you know what I mean. I'm this type of color or this, you know what I mean, this or that. It's just more of you got to start loving yourself and you got to start appreciating yourself and love yourself and love your culture. And that's it.
Okay, I'll go next. How many of you guys have traveled to a new country, to a different country? Hopefully, many of you have. And my topic is going to be about growing up and going to El Salvador. And I'm going to be talking about agriculture between America and El Salvador. And I'm going to talk about the impact it's had on me and what message I want to show other people. So a little background about myself is that I grew up here in California and I grew up in San Francisco. So I'm very familiar with the modern society that we live in here today. And agriculture hasn't been something I thought about growing up as a kid. And those little things I started to notice at the age of 10 when I moved, not moved, but when I traveled and visited my grandparents at El Salvador. Um, my parents are both Salvadorians and they both grew up there and they moved over here. So I got to speak a lot of Spanish growing up. And when it came to El Salvador, I took everything advantage. I took a lot of advantage here in San Francisco. But then when I moved or when I visited, I saw that people struggled a lot more in El Salvador than over here. Because when it comes to agriculture, more people are doing like their own farms. People have their own acres of land. People have to survive and maintain a lot of their crops in order to survive because there's not many supermarkets, so there's not many stores that you could access over there. Meanwhile, over here we have access to everything. We mass produce, and that's one thing that we do differently here. And the impact it's had on me is that I couldn't bear the idea that more people are like dying over there. More people are dying because nobody can maintain their crops all the time. People have to like trade, people have to buy from others. And that's one thing that I'm thankful for being over here in America. We don't have to worry about things like that. We have like stores, we have companies that produce for us, and El Salvador doesn't have that privilege. So I'm definitely grateful for that. And the message I want to deliver to everybody here is that I don't I don't want people to look at other third world countries and think that they have better stuff, everything is more calm over there because in reality there are more struggles and more things to worry about. In El Salvador, there are more struggles to worry about, maybe in other countries as well, but definitely in little communities like those little countries, we have to maintain our food and try to survive the way we have it. And I just want people to know that it's better to be grateful for what we have because sometimes other people might struggle more than us. Okay.
My turn. Anxiety. How many of you guys struggle with anxiety? Well, if you're like me and you struggle with anxiety, I know doing things that are uncomfortable can feel pretty scary. But as crazy as this sounds, doing things that are uncomfortable or scary can actually be really good for anxiety. With that being said, I'd like to share a few experiences of mine that have taught me this, as well as how it's impacted my life. For starters, I'd like to give you a little background on myself. My parents were not the most wealthiest people. I actually grew up in a very poor household, as well as not having a lot of social skills or social interactions because my parents weren't the most confident people either. So we spent a lot of times indoors. It wasn't until I went to school that I started to experience anxiety. That's the first time I can ever remember experiencing anxiety. When I first show up at school, I'd have panic attacks in the bathroom and have to prepare myself to face the teachers and all the other students. But things eventually got easier as I made friends, and I didn't really have that much anxiety until they wanted to do things outside of school. It was really out of my comfort zone because I didn't have the money to go out to the places that they wanted to go to or the transportation to meet them at the places that they wanted to meet. This is what leads me to the experience that had taught me to face your fears. It's when they had invited me to go camping with them. When they first invited me, I was like, no way. But somehow they had convinced me to go, and I went. And it was good until they wanted to do cliff jumping. And that was completely out of my comfort zone because I'm also afraid of heights. So I sat out and let them enjoy themselves. And it wasn't until one of my friends came up to me and they had said, if you keep running away from your fears, they're never going to go away. You have to go towards your fears so that they run away. And I don't know why, but those simple words like really stuck with me. And so after he had said that, I walked up to that ledge and I debated for a good 30 minutes if I was going to jump off that rock. It took a lot of mental preparation to jump off that rock, But once I did it, it was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. And after I did it that one time, I kept doing it and I realized my friend was right. And it was that experience that literally changed my whole perspective on how I was going to approach every situation. And it gave me a new outlook on life and a new outlook on anxiety. And it's what it's what it's what got me interested in studying the brain. So this is what leads me to how it's impacted my life. If it wasn't for that situation, I don't think I ever would have had that spark of curiosity to question why the brain is the way it is, or why people think the way they do, or why they do the things that they do. It was this passion that it was that experience that had gave me this passion for learning what I want to learn about now. And why now that I've told you how I've overcame my fears, I messed up, but it's okay. Now that I've told you how I've overcame my fears and how it's impacted my life, I want you to take from this experience this. Face your fears, all of them, because anxiety doesn't just go away. It's something you have to live with, but it's not something that has to take over your life. Face those fears, as horrible as it'll feel in the moment. I promise you, the outcome is worth it. And that's my speech. So me and you had both went a little over for our speeches. Gio, yours was like 4 minutes, 22 seconds.
Oh snap!
3 minutes and 29. Brandon, yours was 3 minutes on the dot. Yours
No.
3 minutes on the yeah. So for the grade, I had given Geo for pitch 4 because you did really well with like the pitch. It sounded really clear and really like you weren't talking too loud, you weren't talking too quiet. Preparedness, I gave you a 4 because you seemed like you were prepared to talk about what you were talking about. Speaking clearly, I gave you a 3 just because I feel like there's a few things that like, you know, you can kind of see like you hesitate, which I'm struggling with that a little bit too, where you kind of like you'll say like or like pause or
Yeah.
you'll say enthusiasm, I gave you a 3. I feel like we just need a little bit more like passion.
A little more jump, a little bit more jump to it. I got you, trust.
Volume 4, perfect. Posture and eye contact, good posture, eye contact. Sometimes when you are thinking about what you're gonna say, you look away, which I do.
Ah,
I do that too. And then for Brandon, for pitch, I gave you a 3 because you need to talk a little bit louder, just a little bit
Okay.
louder. Preparedness,
Yeah.
4. You were very prepared. Speaks clearly, I gave you a 3 because I feel like you, or why did I say that? I can't remember. I think when you were doing your speech, there was a few times where you weren't talking loud enough. I think it had to do the same thing with the pitch.
Okay, got it.
Enthusiasm, I gave you a 2. We need more enthusiasm. You're trying to like you're talking about like your El Salvador. I want more passion, more enthusiasm, like
Yeah, of course.
what you're talking about. Volume 4, you did good with volume. Posture and eye contact 4.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. And then
where
practice grades.
where do you go to see the grades where like the tone and stuff?
So you just pull up the little link on the speech practice thing. But if you want, because we only have 3 minutes left, so I'll just tell you for pitch, what did you give each of us and why?
Pitch. Uh, for pitch, I'll give Madison a 4 because you did pause through your speech and be like, damn, I messed up, and then it was just like, and then you kept going, but it's all right though, you know what I mean? Because it does happen. It's practice. Brandon, I'll give you a solid little 5 because the pitch was solid little pitch. You know what I'm saying? 3 minutes on the dot, no wasting time, got straight to the point. I
Yeah.
like that.
And then
What's the next one?
preparedness.
Preparedness. Madison, I'll give you a solid 4 on preparedness because for preparation, you know what I'm saying? You know what we were talking about? They just couldn't look like you couldn't put it together. You know what I mean? It's gonna come together though.
Yeah.
But for Brandon, I'll give you a solid 4-2 because
Okay.
you were prepared and you had everything you're talking about. But it did look like you were like hesitant in your speaking just a little bit, just a little tiny bit.
Okay.
But solid.
And then
What's the
speak
next?
clearly.
speaking clearly. I'll give you guys both 5. You guys are both speaking clearly. You guys are did solid on that for sure.
And then enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. I ran a little 4 on enthusiasm because a little monotone. You got a little monotone in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
of course.
straight, giving that straight facts about what you're talking about. Madison, I give you a solid 5 for enthusiasm because you had the enthusiasm, the smiles, you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
And
solid
then volume.
volume. I'll give you guys both a 5 for volume. You guys did solid with the volume.
And posture and eye contact.
Posture, I'll give Brandon 5 for posture. That back is straight, you know what I'm saying? Straight and eye contact with the camera. Madison, I'll give you a solid 5 for the eye contact, and the posture was a solid 5.
Cool, cool. All right. Brandon, do yours real quick, and then we'll do the like the topics and stuff in the next video, and we'll just post them as 2 separate videos.
Okay.
For both of us, what did you give us for pitch?
For pitch, Madison, I'll give you a 5 because you had everything. I think it was just like the way you drawn the message to people. And then Gio, I'll give you a 5 as well because I understood what your topic was about and you organized everything clearly.
And then preparedness.
Preparedness, I'll give both of you guys a 5. I think you guys both had everything like ready to be said.
And then speaks clearly.
Speak clearly. Gio, I'll give him a 4. I think you could like talk maybe a bit more, or maybe talk a bit more detail on certain things. And then for Madison, I think I would give you a 4 as well, because like I said, you had a few like times where you hesitated, and then, but yeah.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. I say Madison, you get a 5 because you had the enthusiasm. I could